Well, hello friends. Hello friends. Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you a question. How many of you grew up hearing ghost stories around a campfire or in the haunted house section of your local bookstore? Let me guess. All of you. Storytelling is the oldest magic after all. And while some prefer the comfort of flickering light and friends close by, others crave the chill of a moonless night and tales that linger long after the spine-tingling has faded away. Well, don't worry, friends, because you can have your cake and eat it too. Because we are back with another installment of our favorite series, Scary Stories Told Around a Campfire. And trust me, you won't want to miss this one. But before we dive into tonight's haunting tale, don't forget to do all those good things. Hit that like button, share with a friend, subscribe so you never miss an upload. Now let's dive right in. Part 1, The First Smoke. Some stories, the ones that whisper behind cathedral walls or cling to the moss-darkened stones of abandoned monasteries, do not begin with a date. They begin with a smell. And this story, began with the faint scent of burning hair drifting through the air like a forgotten hymn. It was autumn in the valley of Verdalum, sometime in the 13th century or perhaps earlier, before ink touched parchment, when memory was still passed by firelight and scars. Verdalum was a small place, folded beneath the shadow of black pine forests, and hemmed in by rivers that flowed like veins into a sunless sea. It did not appear on maps, not because it was unknown, but because those who had tried to chart its position returned either mad or mute. The villagers said it was blessed, outsiders said cursed, but neither word held the weight of truth. The truth was that Verdalum endured season after season, plague after plague, war after war, while villages around it withered into soil. And they owed this endurance, they believed, to the rite of embers. Every harvest, when the last sheaf of rye had been gathered and the ground was bare, the people of Verdalum prepared not for celebration, but for sacrifice. They called it Der Aschenfall, the fall of ash. It was said that in the old times, before the gods withdrew behind the veil, the earth drank deeply from the blood of the pure. It was not cruelty. It was covenant. The central figure in the rite was not a priest, nor a king, but a child. Always a child. Chosen not by vote or bloodline, but by the dreams of the village seer, a woman named Merha, whose eyes had been plucked by crows in her youth and who saw only in smoke. She claimed that the chosen one bore the mark of flame upon their soul, and if they were not given freely to the earth, the frost would return. The beasts would howl, and the dead would walk without skin. That year, the dreams came early. Merha awoke one night with blood on her tongue, and the name Elian burned into her lungs. Elian was the miller's son. Barely 10, with hair the color of wheat and eyes like frost. Kind, shy. Often found singing to the grain sacks when he thought no one listened. When the announcement was made, there were no screams, only silence. As though the whole village inhaled and forgot how to breathe. His mother wept quietly into the folds of her apron. His father nodded once, as though completing a transaction. Elian said nothing. For 3 days, he was treated like royalty, bathed in honeyed milk, dressed in linens the color of moonlight, fed with hands that trembled to let go. He did not cry, but at night, when no one watched, he scraped at his own arms, as if trying to dig out the mark no one could see. The pyre was built at the edge of the wheat fields, tall and careful, layered with wood soaked in herbs that sang when they burned. At its base were runes, carved deep into stone long before the village stood. Some said they moved when you blinked. Others never opened their eyes to look. Elian climbed the pyre himself. That was the tradition. No bindings. No pushing. If the chosen one refused, the rite would fail, and the harvest would rot in the soil. But none ever had. Not in living memory. It was said the fire would not touch the unwilling, that it would dance around them, rage against them, until it devoured the village instead. The sun sank low, bleeding across the horizon. The villagers gathered, robes drawn, faces painted with ash. Merha stood at the front, arms raised, reciting words that had no roots in Latin or Greek syllables older than memory. And when she spoke the final verse, a torch was brought forth, held by Elian's mother. Her hand shook. Elian smiled at her. Then the torch was lowered. The scream that followed was not human. It tore through the valley like the cry of a dying god, and those who heard it never forgot. They said the sky darkened, the wheat bowed, and the crows took flight in spirals. But the flames obeyed. They consumed. And in the ash that fell like snow for 3 days, the villagers found omens, faces, names, warnings. That winter was the mildest in a century. The grain overflowed. The rivers ran clean. But in every house, every bed, the smell of burning hair lingered. And in the dreams of every child, a boy with frost eyes sang to the wind, asking if it had all been worth it. They never answered. Part 2. The voice beneath the floorboards. Years passed. The village grew quiet, not in peace, but in heaviness, like a room holding its breath. The harvests remained bountiful, the waters generous, but laughter thinned like mist at dusk. Something some unseen rot had begun to creep beneath the bark of their blessings. It was during the 3rd spring after Elian's burning that the dreams returned. But they were not Merha's. A girl named Dressa, daughter of the blacksmith, began to scream in her sleep. Her voice reached pitches no child should hold. She clawed at the floor, spoke in tongues her mother swore she'd never taught her. She told of fire that whispered secrets, of eyes beneath the soil that blinked open only during rain. Most chilling of all, she spoke Elian's name, not as a memory, but as if he were calling to her. Merha, now aged beyond words, summoned the girl. She asked for no permission, only took Dressa's hands and pressed them against her own eyes. Then she wept not from pain, but from recognition. "The fire has chosen again," she whispered, though her voice cracked like dry wood, but the villagers refused. They pleaded, begged, argued. The rite had been fulfilled. The soil had drunk. Why would it thirst again? They had paid. Merha only replied, "Because you enjoyed the feast too much." One night, the blacksmith's home caught fire. No cause was found. No other building was touched. Only ash remained of the house and the family. Except for Dressa. She was found walking barefoot into the wheat, her hair coated in soot, eyes blank. When they stopped her, she spoke one sentence, calm as a prayer. "He wants to come home." Whispers grew into fear. Some said Elian's soul had soured, that a spirit bound in fire must return in flame. Others claimed the rite was never a gift, but a bargain, and they had broken its terms. Merha called a gathering rare and final. There, she recounted what she'd never spoken aloud. The first rite had not been Elian's. It had begun centuries ago, when the village was still stone and mud, when the fields had birthed black grain and calves with 2 tongues. A pact was made then in desperation. 1 child each decade, a life for life. And they had failed the count. Blood, it seemed, bore interest. That,